Continuing with the line wise explanation of the poem Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson, lines 11 to 17. I am become a name for always roaming with a hungry heart. Much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honoured of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. Ulysses continues to reflect on his past as a traveler and adventurer. As a result of his extensive wanderings, he declares, I am become a name. In other words, I am famous, people know me now. This phrase seems like a response to the ending of line 5, where he says, and know not me. In other words, the people of Ithaca don't know me, but I am a popular name in other lands across the seas. The fact that the Ithacans do not recognize Ulysses for who he is reflects their ignorance, for the rest of the world does recognize Ulysses. He has become famous, a household name in places around the world. The sonorous sounds and regular meter of this phrase might reflect how pleasing and how right Ulysses finds the idea of his fame. The phrase follows a perfect iambic pattern. I am become a name. The repetition, the consonants of euphonious consonants like M and N also creates internal slant rhyme and result in a pleasing, powerful sound. The stress on am and name emphasizes the importance of identity to Ulysses. It is important that other people recognize him for the great, powerful man he is. The M and N sounds are then repeated in the following lines: roaming, seen, known, etc., linking the idea of Ulysses' fame to his travels and his curiosity. He won fame for how widely he traveled and how much he learned, seeing and observing so many different human cities and cultures. The lines, cities of men, and manners, climates, councils, governments, echoes part of the opening of Homer's Odyssey. Many cities of men he saw and learned their minds. This line is from the poem Odyssey by Homer, Book 1, translated into English by Robert E. Fagles. The reader will likely recognize this allusion because Homer's text is so famous, and so the truth of Ulysses' statement is reinforced. He has become a name and grown famous over time. In Homer's Odyssey, the hunger in Ulysses' heart was primarily to reach home, but by following the hungry heart, with the phrase, much have I seen and known, Ulysses now implies that his appetite was for seeing and learning new things. Unlike his people, who feed merely on food, Ulysses hungers for knowledge. Besides travel, Ulysses reveals that he also found joy in glory and in war. He uses a form of understatement, specifically litotes, when he says that he was not least among the men he met. far from being merely not the worst. Ulysses was often recognized in Homer's Odyssey as one of the greatest and cleverest of the Greek leaders. Calling himself not least sounds like a kind of modesty, but he clearly delighted in being honored by all the people he met. He also delighted in the experience of battle during the Trojan War. The term drunk in drunk delight ties back to his determination to drink life to the lees. The lees basically means the what you find at the bottom of a cup of tea or coffee, that fine powder which does not get dissolved and which you don't drink either, that is known as lees. In other words, to the last drop. I would like to drink life to the last drop. This is what he's trying to say. These two linked metaphors imply that for Ulysses, part of what it means to live life to the fullest is to do dangerous and heroic deeds like fighting in war. The plains of Troy were filled with the noise of deadly weapons clashing. But the fact that Ulysses uses the word ringing to describe that noise suggests that he found the sound almost like bells or music. Ulysses yearns to do these kind of heroic deeds again. Significantly, these deeds were done a long way from home. There is an irregular stress on the first syllable of line 17, emphasizing the word far. If Ulysses wants to recover the heroism of his youth, he will likely need to travel far from home again to do so. Lines 18 to 24. The text: I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an arc, whether through gleams that untravelled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use. Unquote. As though to breathe were life. After describing his past travels and adventures, Ulysses concludes, I am a part of all that I have met. He has left his mark on the people he encountered, and they have left their mark on him. To some people, this might mean that a life has been well lived, that you can simply rest and enjoy the time that remains. The fact that this line is perfectly iambic, I am a part of all, etc., and also end stopped, might seem similarly to suggest that Ulysses' life has come to a good conclusion. The next lines, however, contradict this idea. Ulysses is far from considering his life to be over. He immediately declares, yet all experience is an arc wherethrough gleams that untravelled world. His past experiences are metaphorically an arc or gateway through which he glimpses all the experiences he has not yet had, the world he has still not travelled. Everything he has done so far has made him more, not less, eager to keep going. These lines are also enjambed. The phrase does not stop at the end of the line but keeps going, just as Ulysses wishes to keep going. There is also an irregular stress on the first syllable in line 20, gleams, emphasizing just how attractive the untravelled world remains for Ulysses. In his mind, it shines like treasure. In connection with the word margin, gleams also suggests the light of the setting sun. The sun sets at the horizon, which is the margin or edge of the visible world. It is the horizon that Ulysses wants to reach. Of course, this is impossible, since no matter how far you travel or move, a further horizon will forever be out ahead of you, always out of reach. Nevertheless, this further horizon is what attracts Ulysses. In other words, he wants to travel endlessly with his journey never coming to an end. For him, impossible deeds for the most heroic to attempt. The word move seems to remind Ulysses that his current life is motionless, and he exclaims in frustration, how dull it is to pause to make an end. The caesura in the middle of the line and its being end stopped reproduce the feeling of pausing for the reader. He goes on, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Here Ulysses uses the metaphor of a weapon to represent a human life. Humans should treat their lifetime just as they treat their weapons. A life of idleness is as useless and ugly as a weapon left to rust. What makes a weapon or a life shine with beauty is being used in action. That is why merely breathing or merely having life in your body does not count as really living life. A meaningful life is active. The metaphor of the weapon suggests in particular that a meaningful life is spent doing dangerous, daring things. Remember that he is a soldier at heart. As in line 16, and drunk delight to battle with my peers, Ulysses links war and battle with living life to the fullest. Paradoxically, for Ulysses, it is only those activities that may bring about death that make you truly alive. The threat of death implicit in this metaphor, in other words, clearly visible in this metaphor, will be significant at the poem's end as Ulysses urges his crewmates to join him on a final daring voyage. Lines 24 to 28. The lines are, life piled on life, but all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things. After insisting that the only meaningful life is one spent in action, Ulysses reflects on the state of his own life. Even many lifetimes, life piled on life, would not be enough for him to accomplish all the great deeds he hopes to accomplish. The repetition, technically dicope, of life in life upon life replicates the sense of the line piling on the word life by having it appear twice in one short phrase. The repetition of the word little then adds poignancy to Ulysses' sense of just how a short time remains to him. The fact that only a little remains of his own lifetime is even more painful if even many lifetimes would still be too little for all that he would like to do. In other words, one life is never enough. But Ulysses insists also that every hour he has left to live is a bringer of new things and opportunity to see or do at least one more thing before he dies. He calls death that eternal silence. The silence of death contrasts with the ringing plains of Troy, where he fought furiously in battle, and parallels the still hearth means the fireplace at home, where he idly passes his days now. Death, then, is the absence of action for him. If Ulysses' life on Ithaca is motionless and quiet, it is not much better than that death. And so, Ulysses hopes to escape this sedentary life. Sedentary means where there is no activity or very little activity, and accomplish at least one more great deed before he dies. He does not specify what, he simply says something more. More could simply mean in addition to what he has already done. But Ulysses is also the kind of man who always wishes to do more than what others have done, to test the limits of human achievement. He is an ambitious explorer who wants to see not just where other people have gone, but the untraveled world where no one has gone before. Similarly, new things could refer to things outside Ulysses' usual daily life, things he has not yet done, or it could refer to things that no human has yet done. The line, a bringer of new things, could be scanned as having an irregular stress on new, so that new things forms a spondy. This stress places further emphasis on new, indicating both Ulysses' determination to escape from his habitual lifestyle and his ambition in testing human limits. We'll take a break here and continue in the next session.